Our final inductee today is Greg Smith. Greg was a member of Coach John Odom's Hilltopper teams from 1965 to 1968 and played along with Clem Haskins and Greg's older brother Dwight to help write one of the great chapters in Hilltopper basketball history. Coach Odom said of Greg, he was a great player, not just because of his natural ability, but because of his constant determination, his hard work, and his hustle. Longtime sports information director for WKU, Paul Just, describes Greg as an overachiever and credits his grit and determination for his success both on and off of the basketball court. I know Greg to be the consummate gentleman. When he was here, the team took on his personality. And basketball teams are like lots of complex organizations that often take on the personalities of those who lead them. Strength, integrity, toughness. That was true of his NBA teams as well. These character traits are what led him to earn the starting spot on the Milwaukee Bucks as a rookie. But it was his jumping ability that made him a fan favorite. In an article published last year, Greg was listed as one of the top 7 most amazing dunkers in the Milwaukee Bucks history. How about that? The writer said of Greg Smith, he helped the Bucks win their first and only NBA championship in 1971 as a high flyer. His acrobatic dunks would have made him a mini highlight film today. Unfortunately, his playing days came before a time when ESPN, NBA TV, and Fox Sports, etc. were just pipe dreams. Greg was inducted into the Kentucky High School Athletic Association Hall of Fame in 1996 and the WKU Athletic Hall of Fame in 1998. In 2007, he was selected by popular vote among Hilltopper fans to be a member of the WKU Centennial basketball team in celebration of this university's 100th year. Greg has had a successful career in national media sales for 37 years and has devoted himself to his family and his community. For 20 years, he played charity basketball games with the Portland Trail Blazer alumni team, raising more than $2 million for charities in Oregon and Southwest Washington. He has been a role model in every aspect of his life, and I'm honored and delighted today to welcome Greg Smith into the WKU Hall of Distinguished Alumni.
Representing some of the most memorable teams in WKU sports history and the only alumnus to win an NBA championship, a product of the segregated 60s, Greg Smith was blazing trails long before he wore a Portland Trail Blazers jersey.
But keep in mind that those of us of the 64 and 65 and 66 had an obligation to do and to perform in a way that others didn't have to. We had to be exceptionally better because it was more of a gift. It was something, it was an experiment. Can we get in there and can we make things happen? Can we make changes? Can we go along with the changes and the sacrifices that we need to make in order to I guess, carry the banner, if you will, of all the struggle of so many people have gone through, both black and white. It didn't matter, those who wanted to seek change in America.
One of 5 children, Greg overcame a childhood bout with rheumatic fever that had threatened his ability to walk. The family's Princeton, Kentucky home was filled with faith and family, the perfect gathering spot for the neighborhood, where the young Greg honed his skills as a cowboy and his agility as an athlete.
You made up things as you went along, and we loved when the grass was cut. My mother would string lights on the line and on the fence, and we would have a party. And of course, Gregory could absolutely dance. Gregory could dance. I mean, he was smooth, he was very coordinated, tall, lanky, handsome, and he could dance. And everybody wanted to dance with Gregory. He could fast dance, he'd twirl and dip and turn, and even now he's a great dancer.
And dance he did, into the sports record books. Greg, along with his brother Dwight, 18 months his senior, became 2 of the first African-American athletes at WKU.
It was the only sport we could play, and in that gym class or recreation class, whatever we called it then, you played ball, and everybody put teams together, and we went hard against each other, and it just became better and better. And again, as I said, it was during the time of segregation, and so it was all black schools played black schools, and so it grew from that. And Dotson High School was a good school, but we never won anything. It wasn't until my brother Dwight came along that he energized our basketball team at Dotson when he was I think it was a sophomore, and from that point on, Dotson became a tremendous basketball team. And then integration came along, and we went and played in state tournaments and on and so forth, and he became a very celebrated basketball player. Of course, he went to Western. I continued to play ball at Caldwell County High School. I continued to become a better ball player, and all these things culminated. And then other schools had invited me to come to their campus, but I knew where I wanted to go. I wanted to be with my brother. I wanted to be with Clem Haskins, and I went to Western. And so that was in 1964. And that started my basketball career, that started my educational career, and brought me to where I am today.
Along with Clem Haskins, the Smith brothers played 2 seasons together at WKU. Their team ranked among the top 10 in the country from 1965 through 67. They made 2 trips to the NCAA, and the 6'5", 200-pounder just kept getting better.
Now comes the senior year, and we haven't given him a lot of credit, but he had played a lot of basketball. It was our leading rebounder, and he just was a fabulous basketball player. I really enjoyed it. Sometimes I'd have difficulty watching the game. I'd watch Greg because he had an act of knowing what was going to happen before it actually happened on the basketball floor.
I played well enough in one All-Star game for the Milwaukee Bucks to take a look and say, this guy may have something. Anyway, I was drafted 4th round on an expansion team with the Milwaukee Bucks. I was excited. I was drafted, I think, 3rd round by the Kentucky Colonel in the ABA. And I figured that my next, if I didn't make the NBA, I didn't make the ABA, I was going to join the Army. So it worked out pretty good for me. I made the NBA and with the Milwaukee Bucks in 1968. And on from there. And in the 1969-70 season, we had a flip of the coin to get Kareem. At that time, Lou Alcindor. And of course, the Milwaukee Bucks won the coin toss over the Phoenix Suns, and Kareem and I became teammates. And we had a good year that year in the 69-70 season. And then during the summer of 70, they were able to come to agreement and get the great Oscar Robertson to join us. And that cemented our team together. And in 1971, we won the NBA title.
I was a guard. Our guards were almost as big as our forwards. Myself and John McLaughlin were 6'5", and Kareem was 7'2", of course, in the pivot. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, and Bobby Dandridge at 6'6", and Greg Smith at 6'5". So we didn't overpower a lot of teams as far as pushing them around the floor, but we managed to do okay. We just outran them, played smarter. And Greg was very, very important because he was up and down the court so fast. People who guarded Greg, even though they may have had an advantage when they had the ball, but as soon as the ball switched hands in the transition game, he just made up for it because he outran them. He beat them up and down the court and got layups, which really changes how they're going to play against you. And then something happened which I could never understand or explain. They traded him the next year. Not only Greg Smith, they got rid of Bob Boozer, Dick Cunningham, and a guy named McCoy McLemore, which ruined our team.
Traded in 1972 to the Portland Trail Blazers, Greg Smith retired from professional sports after 7 years. He and his family settled in the Pacific Northwest, where he continues his career in media sales. And with the humility of his father before him, Greg continues to put faith first, then family.
My parents are now gone for over 3 years, and I wish they could be a part of this because they were the integral part of developing Dwight, Kay, Sheila, Tony, and myself. You don't get here without any help. You don't get to any level in life, the way I feel right now, without someone back there. And Mom and Dad have always been back there. My coaches have always been there. John Oldham has always been there. All these individuals have been there to help propel you into the person you want to be and try to be.
I think of the thousands upon thousands of people that his life has touched. And that's my pride. That's my pride that he doesn't stand for himself. Gregory is not a selfish individual at all. And I know he is humbled. He is totally humbled by this. Probably doesn't think that he deserves it. He does not, he probably thinks there are a whole lot more people who deserve it more. But I say that he deserves every adulation that he is given right now.
Greg, he'll probably get teary up about this because he does that. I want to say congratulations to Greg for this award. I think you're deserving of it. I'm glad to have been your teammate. You couldn't have won it without you. And they never should have traded you, man.
2013 WKU Hall of Distinguished Alumni inductee, Greg Smith.
This is incredible. I will do one thing. I'll say this now. I will cry. Hopefully not. This is an overwhelming day for me as I sat and we think about our past, and we all do this. We all have these opportunities to think about what we did in the 60s, what we did in the 70s when we were 12 and 13. It was in 1968 when my time as an athlete on this campus came to an end. And what a banquet, didn't we, Coach Oldham? Saying bye to all the seniors who had played. And I recall some of the words that I said, that can I stay here, do you have a job for me? Because I had that much love for this campus, for this university, and I didn't want to leave. I was very fortunate to have a pretty good future in the pros, so I'm very grateful for that. Well, good evening, good afternoon. I would like to thank and recognize our president, Ransdell, the visionary leader of Western Kentucky University, as well as the selection committee. Thank you for including me in your selection this year, as well as my fellow inductees. Brigadier General Dan Cherry and Chief Justice of Kentucky, John Minton Jr. Outstanding men. I had to go third today, but I had to go through all these wonderful things that these men have done. I was a jock. I didn't fly a plane, and I didn't pass judgment. Well, sometime I did, but it's just incredible. Well, I'm here, and my journey started on the shoulders of many. Many have brought and sacrificed a great deal. In 1963, some 50 years ago, when decisions were made to integrate a college, to integrate our system, many of you who are older now understand we're a part of those sacrifices. Many of you were a part of the things that happened, that occurred. We were raised in a small town called Princeton, Kentucky, and it was a wonderful small city made up of a lot of wonderful people. There were a total population of 5,000 people. There were about maybe 500, 600, 700 black folks that lived there. We all got along. During the social 60s and the part of integration, Martin Luther King marches, H. Rap Brown, and other, Malcolm X, we were not affected by that. We saw all those activities on television. Integration came quietly and slowly to Princeton, Kentucky, and it went very, very well. In 1963, I became, along with my brother, a pretty good basketball player at 6'5", and believe it or not, I'm bigger now than I was then. And that worked out pretty well for us. And my father said to my brother, Dwight, Western wants to offer you a scholarship. I said, Dad, what is a scholarship? He said, well, they give you a scholarship, and you go there, you play ball, and you get an education. I go, oh, okay. Well, school again. But school to me. But anyway, that was a great thing. Then my brother selected to come here. During that period of time, many coaches came through our home there in Princeton, and there was one thing that my father would put to each coach, And he asked Coach E.A. Diddle, where will my sons stay when they're on the road? And Coach Diddle said, with our team. That was the right answer. And Dwight became a Hilltopper along with Clem Haskins. And it was a year later, in 1964, that I traveled to this great university because I wanted to be with them, along with guys who were very super accepting of the team, Dale Carrier, Bobby Rasco, Steve Cunningham, and many other ball players who were not black ball players, they were white ball players. But you know what? They had the commonality of we're athletes. We're going to be brothers who will stay together and be together and build this university's team. We will be the integrated best team in the OVC, and we did become that. And those of you who have greeted me so warmly since last night have saw us play, and what a thrill it was for you to come up to me and say, Greg, I remember when you played. I have a hard time remembering when I played too, but anyway. Now at 66 years of age, time has passed, and it's been a wonderful time at that. I've learned so much being here. And my first class that I recall was in English 101. I thought I'd never get out of English 101. But on my way each day from Diddle Dormitory, where all the basketball played, to my class at English 101, there was a statue that said, the Spirit makes the master. And when you walk past that, as many times as I did, one day you just stop and you say, what does that mean? In our life travels, we take stock of ourselves and we try to say to ourselves, in my life have a series of those kinds of moments where I pause and take stock of who I was in relation to this thing we call life. Whatever life has given me, I pray that I've mixed it with a spirit of humanity to yield a better place in this in my sphere of influence. I say that because so many things that we do, that we've been enlightened of to do for others, we hope that we can carry that through our day and set that to each other. We are college educated. We spent the time to become better people, and it's so important that we let the Spirit be the master in our lives in order to touch others. When I left here in 1968, I was very fortunate to play in a few All-Star games and had a tremendous games in some of those days, and that propelled me into the NBA. I was a fourth-round draft choice for the Milwaukee Bucks. I was the 22nd basketball player on the team. You were 22nd, you were 22, because you had so many other players in front of you, and it took the discipline that I learned from Coach Oldham, E.A. Diddle, Gene Rose, Buck Sidner, to help me propel myself above these other veteran players in NBA. I would not have been able to do that had not had the discipline and the character and the repetition of learning plays, the repetition of calling plays in order to be a good athlete. And that all came from this university, to which I'm most appreciative of and proud of to be a part of. I thank you for that. Winning the NBA title in 1971 was an outstanding moment. But I was talking to a young lady earlier today, and this day is most appreciative. When I won the NBA title in 1971, I was 22 years of age. And there was not near the appreciation for that title until several years later when I lost my NBA ring in Detroit, where every other person stole everything. Isn't that bad? But anyway. And I recall being in my room that night, underneath the covers, crying, because I had lost this ring on the bus. And the very next morning, a kind bus driver, the one who didn't steal a lot, returned my ring. And I was so happy about that. And that's when I had a deep appreciation for winning an NBA title and wearing this ring. Until I sat at the table of Romeo Cornell, who showed me his ring. I've made worse mistakes in my life, let me tell you. And I said to his wife, Rosemary, is that his second ring? She said, no, it's 5. Thank you, Romeo, for bringing your ring tonight. So, the Spirit makes the master. I recently returned to Western for the E.A. Diddle Arena and integration of our basketball program. And I had the opportunity, as I said earlier, to run across men who came up to introduce themselves who we played ball with and against at the boys' club, or down at the park. And they revered us to an extent that it was somewhat embarrassing because you didn't know the things that you were doing were that important, because we took our time to go there to play ball, to have fun, and they learned from us what we had learned from trained coaches to make themselves a better ball player. They learned from us the discipline that we had garnered under the tutelage of some wonderful coaches, and that, of course, makes your heart feels good when you reflect back on those days. I thank this university for helping me to mold my character through the dark periods of our history known as integration. We learned to endure and drown out the noise because there was a greater agenda and a larger agenda to be obtained. I thank this university that embraced me and my family after the tragic loss of my brother and sister in '67. This tragedy touched both the soul and the heart of this university. I think it was our first tragedy that this university had to sustain. I thank you for your strength and your courage in helping us live through that. For my life work of 37 years in advertising and in the media business, I'm proud to say that I was able to take some of those character building moments and strength from the word, the Spirit makes the master, into my industry, and the conviction of not being deterred and helping and keeping my eyes on the prize. I am most humbled by being selected in this auspicious Western Kentucky Hall of Distinguished Alumni, and I'm humbled by the accomplishment of those inducted today. I thank you for recognizing my contribution as an alum of this university, but I say to us all today that the Spirit does make the master, and we can pass that on to everyone that we encounter in our churches, at the grocery store, and in our business, and in our neighborhood. Because it becomes the small things that make a difference. I am proud of the fact that I attended this university that taught me that the Spirit makes the master. Thank you.